Hey, what's up, guys? Oracle here, Monster Hunter Extraordinaire. And for all those newbies to Monster Hunter series, I know sharpness is one of those things that it seems pretty obvious what it does and what it's for, but we're going to break it all down for you guys that might be a little confused. So let's jump right into it. So sharpness is that colorful little rainbow-like bar at the top of your screen, and it applies when you're using the 11 Blade Master weapons, as they call them. So that's the Greatsword, Longsword, Sword, Shield, Dual Blade, Gun Lance, Lance, Hammer, Hunting Horn, Switch Axe, Charred Blade, and Insect Glaive. So you'll notice that even the blunt weapons have sharpness, which is odd. And however you want to, cope to get yourself past that, then so be it. The only weapons that don't have to worry about sharpness are the ranged weapons, the light bow gun, heavy bow gun, and bow. Those you have to deal with ammo, which is a whole different ball game for another video. So in base game content, there's 6 sharpness levels, 7 once you make it up to the master rank levels in Sunbreak. Those colors range from red all the way up to white and then purple on the master rank level. So why do we care about sharpness? So sharpness manages 2 key things in Monster Hunter Rise and essentially the Monster Hunter series. First being the higher your sharpness, the lower your chance that your weapon's going to bounce or deflect off a monster. And second, the higher your sharpness past a certain threshold, you'll have a higher damage multiplier. So the concept of weapon deflection's pretty straightforward. Basically, monsters have different parts, and in these different parts have different predetermined hardness levels. And these hardness levels have preset levels of sharpness that your weapon need in order to actually hit it without bouncing off. So with monsters like the Azuchi, that are super soft, there are literally no points where you would deflect your weapon unless your weapon was like at a red sharpness level, whereas something like a Baroth or a Basarios have multiple hard parts like their head, and on the Basarios, pretty much the entire body, to where your weapon is very, very likely to bounce off no matter what sharpness level you're at. So if you're new to the series, you can kind of do an eyeball test to see, okay, does my monster have anything that looks hard on their body, like a hard shell, rocks on their body in the Basarios' case? And you can kind of look at it as, all right, is my sword going to strike a nice soft piece of chicken? Or is my sword or hammer going to strike a brick wall? So use that rule of thumb, and in the case of the brick wall scenario, definitely make sure you either aim for the weak spot or make sure you're constantly sharpening your weapon to prevent deflection as much as possible. Now, from a damage multiplier perspective, you could take a look at these 2 graphs here on the screen, and you can see that as you go up in sharpness level, the multiplier of your damage for your raw damage and your elemental damage go up at slightly different rates. So with your raw damage, you can see that at yellow sharpness, you're literally at 100% damage, to where if your weapon says it does 100 damage, it will do 100 damage. As you go up in sharpness, you'll see that slowly goes up to getting 0.39 extra, so 39% extra damage when you're at purple sharpness. And then inversely, when you're at red and orange sharpness, you can see a significant drop in your damage output. On the other graph for your elemental damage multiplier, you can see that the 1 damage multiplier starts at green versus yellow. So if you're using an elemental build or an elemental weapon, you basically need to make sure that your weapon is always at least at green sharpness, or you're going to be getting a drop in the elemental damage that you deal out. So for example, if your weapon is a fire weapon and it does 50 fire damage, once it goes to yellow sharpness, it's going to be doing only 75% of that 50 fire damage as opposed to the full 100% of it at the green sharpness. And then on the other end of the spectrum, once you get to the purple sharpness level, you can see that there's a 25% damage increase in your elemental damage. So keep that in mind, that the sharpness scales differently depending on your raw damage and your elemental damage, which is a lot of times why most individuals will settle for just a straight raw damage build versus an elemental damage build. It's less to really worry about, and you end up getting a higher damage multiplier with higher sharpness versus the elemental damage. So that just about covers everything with sharpness. Definitely experiment around with different weapons, as different weapons have different sharpness levels, as there's also different skills that can increase the maximum level of sharpness on your weapons. If you found this video helpful, definitely make sure you give a like and subscribe down below, and definitely follow me for more beginner guide type content like this. I plan to post more and more YouTube shorts as well as full-length videos going forward every week. So appreciate it, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.